Have you ever felt invisible? Like your story is unfolding in the shadows while the world's attention is fixed elsewhere. Today, we meet a woman whose life was lived in the shadows, yet whose spirit shines through history. Her journey is one of quiet strength and resilience, echoing across centuries. Her name is Hagar. She was Egyptian, a foreigner, an outsider from the start. In a world where belonging meant everything, Hagar was always on the outside looking in. Imagine being taken from your home, your family, everything familiar. That was Hagar's reality. She was uprooted, forced to leave behind the life she knew and thrust into uncertainty. She was a servant, a handmaiden in a foreign land, her life not her own. Every day she carried out tasks for others, her dreams and desires set aside. Hagar's story begins not with her choices, but with the choices of others, serving Sarai, wife of Abram. Her fate was shaped by the hands of those with power over her. Her days were filled with service, her voice unheard in the big decisions. She moved quietly, her presence often overlooked, her opinions rarely sought. She was a silent figure in the background of a grand story, a story about a great nation and a promise from God. Yet, her own story was unfolding, quietly but powerfully. But no one is truly in the background of their own life. Every person's journey matters, even when it seems hidden from view. Living among people waiting for a miracle, she was part of their journey, but never at its center. She watched, waited, and wondered where she fit in. Her story forces us to look at those on the sidelines and ask, what about them? What dreams, what pain, what hope do they carry? Hagar reminds us that powerful stories of faith and survival often come from the most unexpected places. Her courage and endurance inspire us to see the unseen. Even when people don't see you, there is a power greater than all of us that does. Hagar's journey teaches us that every life, no matter how hidden, is seen and valued. Step into Hagar's world, serving in Abram and Sarai's household in Canaan. Far from her homeland, Hagar found herself in a place both foreign and demanding, where every day brought new challenges and unfamiliar customs. For Hagar, Canaan was just where she worked, her days filled with endless tasks. She rose before dawn, her hands busy with chores, fetching water, grinding grain, tending to the needs of others before her own. She was trusted, capable, and loyal, making the household run smoothly. Her diligence did not go unnoticed, and she became an essential part of daily life. Hagar heard everything, the whispers of hope, the sighs of disappointment, the private conversations that echoed through the tent walls. She witnessed Sarai's pain, her longing for a child, her unanswered prayers. Hagar saw the tears that fell in the quiet moments, the silent ache that lingered in Sarai's eyes. Hagar was a silent observer to a deeply personal struggle, always present but rarely acknowledged, holding her own feelings close. Abram was the patriarch, Sarai the matriarch, and Hagar the Egyptian handmaid. Clear lines of power and belonging shaped every interaction. Hagar's existence depended on the desires of others, a position of vulnerability where her fate was not her own to decide. Yet within this structure, Hagar existed, breathed, felt, and dreamed. She carried her own memories, her own silent hopes for something more. She was not just a function or a role. She was a person with her own thoughts and hopes, quietly nurturing her inner world. Her position as a servant did not erase her spirit. Even in the shadows, her strength and resilience grew. From this powerlessness, her story of strength would emerge. Hagar's courage was forged in the quiet moments of endurance. Hagar's journey reminds us our circumstances do not define our destiny. Even when the world seems to have written your story, you can still claim your own voice. The world may try to box you in, but your spirit can always find a way to be free. There is always hope. Even in the harshest places, even in the margins, humanity endures. Hagar's story is a testament to the quiet power of perseverance and the enduring light of hope. Years passed, and Sarai's longing for a child grew desperate. In her pain, Sarai devised a plan, common in her culture but life-altering for Hagar. She offered Hagar to Abram as a surrogate, hoping to build a family through her. Hagar was not asked, she was told. Her body, her future, her life were decided for her. Hagar conceived, and suddenly everything changed. She was no longer just a servant, she was the mother of Abram's child. With this new status came new tension. Hagar began to despise Sarai. For the first time, Hagar held a kind of power. She succeeded where her mistress had failed. Sarai's pain turned to jealousy and bitterness. The plan born of desperation became the source of torment. The household was poisoned by rivalry and resentment. Hagar's burden was now more than physical, it was emotional and spiritual. The promise that was meant to bring joy brought only conflict. Hagar's life was forever changed by choices she never made. The cost of this plan would echo for generations. The joy of a coming child was quickly overshadowed by conflict. Sarai, feeling threatened, accused Abram and blamed Hagar. Abram, caught in the middle, told Sarai to do as she wished. Hagar was left powerless at Sarai's mercy. Sarai mistreated Hagar, harsh words, extra burdens, constant reminders of her place. The home became a prison. Pregnant and alone, Hagar fled into the wilderness. Imagine her, a pregnant woman, running into the desert with no plan or provisions. She was escaping cruelty but running toward uncertainty. Alone and desperate, Hagar faced the desolation of the desert. Her story could have ended as a forgotten tragedy in the sands, but her journey was not over. Even in despair, Hagar's story was still being written. Sometimes the wilderness is where we are truly seen. In the wilderness, by a spring, Hagar stopped, exhausted and alone. The desert stretched endlessly around her, a harsh reminder of her isolation and the uncertainty of her future. Every step had been heavy, her heart weighed down by fear and sorrow. In her darkest moment, when hope seemed lost, an angel of the Lord found her. Light broke through the silence, and she realized she was not as alone as she thought. The angel called her by name. "Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going?" The question echoed in the stillness, reaching deep into her soul. Hagar replied, her voice trembling, "I'm running away from my mistress." She spoke her pain aloud, finally seen and heard. The angel's command was hard: go back and submit. It was not the answer she wanted, but it was a call to courage and trust. But it came with a promise, a hope that pierced the wilderness. "I will increase your descendants so much they will be too numerous to count." Her future, once bleak, was now filled with possibility. The angel promised her a son. "You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery." Ishmael means God hears. Even in her suffering, she was not forgotten. In her suffering, God heard her. Her tears did not go unnoticed in the vast emptiness. He saw her pain and gave her a promise, a future shaped by hope, not despair. Hagar was no longer just a runaway slave. She was a woman who had met God in her lowest moment and was forever changed. She named God El Roi, the God who sees me. In naming him, she claimed her own worth. "I have now seen the one who sees me," she said, her heart filled with awe and gratitude. The outsider was seen and valued by God. She was no longer invisible, but cherished. With new strength and dignity, Hagar returned to Sarai's household to await her son's birth, carrying hope within her. Her encounter in the wilderness changed everything. She was transformed by the God who sees. Even in exile, she was never invisible to God. In the silence of the desert, she discovered she was deeply known. Sometimes the desert is where we find our true worth, where we realize we are seen, heard, and loved. Hagar returned, carrying not just a child, but a divine promise. She gave birth to Ishmael, and for a time peace settled over the household. Ishmael was Abram's only son for years. Hagar found purpose in motherhood, but old tensions lingered, waiting to resurface. 14 years later, Sarah gave birth to Isaac. Now there were two sons: Isaac, the child of promise, and Ishmael, the son of the servant. The fragile peace shattered. On the day Isaac was weaned, Sarah saw Ishmael with Isaac and felt threatened. Her fear and resentment boiled over. She demanded Abraham send Hagar and Ishmael away. This was not just exile, it was total rejection. Abraham was torn, loving both sons, but the conflict reached its breaking point. Hagar and Ishmael were cast out, their place in the family erased. The consequences of old choices had come full circle. The wilderness awaited them once more. Abraham, heartbroken, sent Hagar and Ishmael into the desert with minimal provisions. Hagar wandered, the sun relentless, hope fading as water ran out. Ishmael collapsed from thirst. Hagar, unable to watch him die, placed him under a bush and wept. Alone, abandoned, and facing the death of her only child, Hagar's despair was complete. Her cry echoed across the wasteland, a mother's love and grief. She had survived so much, but this felt like the end. In that moment, she was utterly broken. She had run out of water, strength, and hope. The wilderness seemed to have claimed her story, but even in the silence, her cry was heard. Sometimes our lowest moments are the turning points. Hagar's journey was not over. The desert was about to become a place of new beginnings. Even in despair, hope can be found. Just as before, God heard not Hagar's cry, but Ishmael's. An angel called from heaven, "Do not be afraid, God has heard the boy crying." The angel reminded Hagar of God's promise, "Lift the boy up, for I will make him into a great nation." God opened her eyes to a well of water, provision in the midst of despair. Hagar filled the skin and gave Ishmael a drink, saving his life. The well was more than water, it was hope, a sign that God's promise was real. From that moment their lives changed. No longer victims, they had a future and a divine promise. Hagar became the instrument of her son's salvation. God was with Ishmael as he grew up, becoming a strong survivor. Hagar arranged a marriage for him from her homeland, Egypt. She had come full circle, from slave to matriarch. Cast out, she triumphed, securing a future for her son and his descendants. All because God saw her and heard her cry. Hagar's survival became a legacy. What do we learn from Hagar's story? First, the truth of El Roi, the God who sees. Hagar was an outsider, but God saw her. Her story declares, "You are seen. You matter. Our actions have consequences. We must consider how our decisions affect others." Hagar's journey is the ultimate story of hope. She started as a servant with no future, twice exiled, yet became the mother of many nations. Our beginnings do not determine our endings. With courage and faith you can overcome any wilderness. Hagar's legacy is strength, survival, and a mother's love. Even when people fail us, divine love never will. Her story, once hidden, now shines as a beacon of hope. Remember, there is a God who sees.